Ghost of Spirit Bear by Ben Mikaelsen, Chapter 14. While he waited to hear from the school board, Cole decided to visit his father one last time. Indian summer made the days warm and lazy as Cole caught the bus downtown after school. Maybe his father had changed some. He hadn't. "From now on, you call me before dropping in," his father snapped. "I might be with a client." "Or you might not want to see me," Cole said. "You never call or stop by." His father rocked back in his chair. "I told you, your mother and I don't see eye to eye these days." "Why, because she quit drinking and you didn't?" "You watch your smart mouth. I already told you, your mother and I don't get along because she filed abuse charges, turned me in to social services, won custody of you, and took me to the cleaners in the divorce settlement. How many more reasons do you need?" "Dad, you were hitting and hurting me. And you were drinking a lot. You shouldn't have custody of me because you refused to get help." "Oh, so now I'm the one who needs help?" "It couldn't hurt." "What's the real reason you're here?" his father asked. "Does your mother want more child support?" Cole hesitated. "I'm here because I still love you." His father turned and opened a file cabinet to hide his face. His voice wavered. "In your book, I'm just one big screw-up, aren't I?" "Dad, I didn't say that." His father's voice hardened. "Listen, why don't you just worry about yourself?" "At least I'm trying," Cole answered. When his father did not look up, Cole turned and walked quietly from the office. "I won't bother you again," he said, closing the door. Cole blinked back tears as he ran from the building out into the bright sunlight. Tears flooded his cheeks. Later that week, Miss Kennedy called Cole to her office. "It looks like the school board has put our mascot proposal on their agenda for next Wednesday evening," she announced, as if she were the one responsible. Cole had been so sure the request would be denied, his thoughts scrambled. "So how do we get ready?" he asked. "The same as before," Miss Kennedy said. "State your case clearly, anticipate the arguments or questions the board may have, and be ready with answers. They already have your petition and cost estimates. Maybe get more students to show up." "Why am I the one that has to do the speaking?" Miss Kennedy took off her glasses and set them on her desk. "I've read through your juvenile file, and you've been quite the troublemaker," she said. "Tell me, when you broke into a store to steal, did that scare you?" Embarrassed, Cole nodded. "Sure, I was afraid of getting caught." "So why did you still do it?" Miss Kennedy asked. "I don't know. Maybe it was a challenge. Maybe I was just angry." Miss Kennedy nodded. "Right now, you're scared of speaking because you're afraid of failing. It would be like getting caught." "That's different," Cole said. She smiled. "You did a lot of gutsy things as a troublemaker, but you've done even more daring things to turn your life around. Peter told me about your visit to Keith in the hospital. That took a whole lot of courage." "But I don't want to be the group's leader," Cole said. "Leaders are born, and I suspect you're one of them. The students in your group need a leader." Miss Kennedy looked Cole directly in the eyes. "You were afraid as a juvenile delinquent, but it didn't stop you. So don't let it stop you now from doing something good. Fear is just life telling you to be careful. Tell me, do you want to see the school mascot changed to a spirit bear?" "Sure," Cole said. "That would be good." "Okay, then quit questioning yourself. It's wasting your energy. Roll up your sleeves and go make it happen." Cole stood to leave the office. At the door, he turned back and studied Miss Kennedy. Maybe she did care. "Can I ask you a personal question?" he said. "What's that?" "Why aren't you afraid of the gangs hurting you?" Miss Kennedy hesitated, pursing her lips before answering. "My husband died a few years ago of bone cancer." "I'm sorry," said Cole. "So am I," she replied. "We both fought his cancer for 5 years. Compared to cancer, somehow a bully doesn't seem so tough." Cole spent the next few days preparing for the hearing. Each day his team gathered after school. Because cost alone could spell failure, team members made a more complete list with everything from bids on new uniforms to the cost of changing the school stationery. Working with the art teacher, several team members prepared a sample Spirit Bear logo to show the board. "Who came up with the bulldog mascot anyway?" one kid complained. "The mutt looks like it wants to eat someone." Cole tried to think of everything. "Find out how old the uniforms are," he told the group. "If they're really old, maybe they need replacing anyway. And this time we need more students to attend the hearing." By Wednesday evening, Cole's guts were tied up in knots. Peter met him early, and they walked the half-mile to the district office together. "Do you think the board members will change their minds?" Peter asked. "They better," Cole answered defiantly. or we'll all be a pain in their butts. Yeah, we'll be hemorrhoids." Nearly 100 people crowded the room as the chairman called the meeting to order. Cole glanced around. Keith had not come tonight, nor had he helped the group since the night he talked to Peter. A reporter from the local newspaper sat on one side taking notes. Cole also noticed a large number of parents attending. That could be good or bad depending on whose side they were on. Shortly after the meeting began, Miss Kennedy slipped in and seated herself alone near the back. As before, the meeting droned on, with financial discussions, salary decisions, and policy reviews. Finally, the chairman announced, "Now it's time to discuss the Spirit Bear issue. Mr. Matthews, would you begin by explaining the student's proposal?" Cole struggled to stay calm as he approached the microphone. Once again, he spoke briefly of going to Alaska as banishment. He mentioned the suicide, vandalism, and beating that had occurred at the school. Then he described the students' circle around the football field and the proposal to change the mascot. "A spirit bear helped me understand myself during banishment. How can you ask us to be kind to each other if our mascot is a snarling bulldog?" "I understand a spirit bear mauled you," a board member said, "only to protect himself. The spirit bear also let me touch him when I quit being angry. We want to change this mascot to a spirit bear because the students at Minneapolis Central have decided to turn their school around. Changing the mascot is our symbol of that effort. The spirit bear represents our own inner strength." As soon as the chairman opened the floor for discussion, several parents approached the microphone. "Our teams have always been the Minneapolis Bulldogs," the first mother argued. "It's tradition." "We have deep financial problems right now," the next parent said. "It's irresponsible to change mascots at this time. Changing band and sport uniforms alone would cost $20,000 or $30,000. That's too much money to spend so that somebody can have a cute little teddy bear on their jersey." Cole forced deep breaths to keep from getting angry. Most of the adults here tonight had come to fight his proposal. What had he expected? "Can anybody else address the cost issue?" a board member asked, looking toward the student section. A quiet 10th grader named Tina Olson approached the microphone. She sounded very businesslike when she said, "We checked and most of the uniforms at the school are almost 20 years old. I don't know anybody who wears clothes that old. Besides, we don't need to change the whole uniform to change the logo. All you need to do is change the jersey on the sports uniform. With the band uniforms, we just have to make the Spirit Bear logo big enough to cover the bulldog." Tina looked down at a piece of paper in her hand. "Our estimate is only $4,382.06. We're already planning fundraisers. Changing mascots shouldn't cost the school anything." She returned to her seat as board members jotted down notes. The next man to approach the microphone looked like a bulldog himself and grew even more belligerent. "I'm not going to stand here and let a bunch of impulsive children destroy our bulldog tradition." The stocky man challenged, "What about the cost of a new mascot statue? You can't just whittle that out in shop class." A shy boy Cole did not know stood and approached the microphone. "I'm new this year to Minneapolis Central," he said. "I guess I don't see the proud bulldog tradition some parents have spoken about tonight. All I've seen are gangs and drugs. That's not much of a tradition." When everybody had spoken, the chairman asked, "Are there any other comments before we vote on this issue?" Miss Kennedy stood and came forward. After stating her name and address, she said, "I hadn't intended to speak this evening, but I want this board to be aware of what will happen when they vote. If the students lose, I predict a dangerous explosion of emotions tomorrow. Students will think they weren't given a fair hearing and their voices didn't count. Likewise, if the students win, I think much of the booster support we enjoy will be at risk." Board members nodded as Miss Kennedy spoke. Cole noticed the district superintendent in the audience. The silver-haired man listened intently but showed no emotion. "Claims will be made that not all the facts were presented," Miss Kennedy continued. "There will be accusations that board members themselves weren't well enough informed, or that not enough notice was made for community comments before the vote. Many parents and students weren't even aware this issue would be voted on tonight. There could even be the risk of lawsuits. I guarantee no matter how the board votes, there will be a fallout of anger and controversy. I suggest that your vote be deferred so that you can hold a special meeting for the community. I think it would be prudent." Miss Kennedy returned to her seat. The board members spoke briefly among themselves, and then the chairman announced, "We agree with Miss Kennedy. Considering the number of people here tonight, we will take final comments and vote on this issue at a special session in a larger meeting area. The date and location will be posted. The school's mascot is not to be taken lightly." Cole noticed the local reporter scribbling furiously on her notepad. The chairman looked down at his paperwork and said, The next item of business is district rezoning. As Cole and Peter left the crowded room with the other students, the reporter approached Cole. "Do you really think changing the school mascot can change your school?" she asked. Cole hesitated. "If we can change the mascot, maybe students will realize that they can control their own futures. This is all about change." "Thanks." The reporter hastily waved down a couple of other students for interviews. In the parking lot, Cole spotted Miss Kennedy leaving and ran over to her. "How did this get to be such a big deal? All we want to do is change a mascot," he complained. "We're not hurting anyone. Those parents make it sound like we're robbing a bank. We're just trying to change a picture on a wall." "I thought you said a mascot was a lot more than that," Miss Kennedy answered. "Otherwise you wouldn't have suggested the change. Would you be doing all this work for just a painting on the wall? Was that what you encountered on the island? A cute little teddy bear? Is that what changed your heart, a teddy bear?" Cole shook his head. Okay, you're right. It is a whole lot more, and it means a whole lot more." "Then start treating it that way," Miss Kennedy said. Cole eyed Miss Kennedy. "I can't figure you out. When school started, you fought change. I figured you'd be gone in a week. Now I don't know what to think. Why did you ask for a special session? Now we have to go through this whole thing again." Miss Kennedy looked tired. "Because tonight you would have lost," she said.